Okay. I've also been like a little testier than usual, so if I offended any of you, I'm so sorry. Actually, I try not to be testy, but sometimes a lot happens in my life, and um, I found myself losing my cool more times than I'm proud of these past few days. So I really apologize if anyone got the butt end of that. Mostly my wife, I think, is the only one who really got the butt end of that. But at least, or I willingly gave it. But if any of you else got the butt end of that, I really apologize.
That allows others to practice their forgiveness.
So thank you. It would be ideal though if I wasn't the one, showing that lesson to everyone. But thank you for seeing it in the positive. All right. So we watched a really nice. What did you guys think of the Hare Krishna movie last night? You guys were really inspired by it. That was really cool. I actually didn't get a chance to watch it because I watched it years ago, but I was so behind on all my rounds, so I was chanting all during the movie. But I'm really glad that you guys were inspired, and yeah, I was like a little bit jealous. I was like, I want to just go up there and watch it, but I'll live through you guys. So we talked about so many things this retreat. Ultimately, to do the supreme duty, what's really going to make us happy, and this spans all religious traditions, is finding your service unto God. And if you do this without your own motivations, your own personal motivations, and without interruptions from the material world, this will make everybody happy. And this is like a formula to happiness. So we want to encourage you guys to find your happiness. In which way? Finding your service unto God. And what that looks like. So we talked about difficulty getting in the way. There's been so many obstacles. Actually, today is kind of a blend on how to overcome obstacles. We're taking a verse from Bhagavad Gita. Just about how to overcome the obstacles in your devotional life and what's going to really make you happy. And we found some of the conclusions were to hear the instructions of the Lord regularly. We have in our tradition, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are really potent instructions of the Lord. And then we also have a spiritual teacher who's hopefully representing those teachings to the finest degree. And we can take instruction from them as well, or multiple teachers. Now, say you're taking this from a more universal approach, I'd recommend anyone to find mentors and guides in their spiritual traditions and yearnings, and find people that they can really trust that are going to be living examples of the highest truths that they know God wants them to follow and practice. So we talked about all kinds of things that hurt our spiritual life. We talked about all kinds of things that were going to help our spiritual life. And now we are going to spin back again to the main essence of this retreat. The main essence of what we want for you guys from Mantra Central is to find your service, to find your, in modern terms, your flow state in which you're making your offering every day and you're finding your true satisfaction out of life. And it's always going to be in relation to God. Just like we give the example of there's a beautiful tulsi plant there. She should probably be near the window getting sun. Do you think actually we can do that? I do. Just put it right behind me. But if you try to water the leaves of the tulsi, and you could call us each like a little leaf on a giant tree of God. And if you try and water the leaves, so just water yourself, just satisfy yourself, you actually don't, you dry up. I feel very dried up today. You know, you really you dry up, and you don't actually nourish yourself. But if you offer the water to the roots, then you get nourished as one little leaf, and then all your other friends and family all across the universe also get nourished. Just by offering the water to the roots. So similarly, when we give our service and our love and our attention to God, we get nourished, our friends get nourished, everybody gets nourished. It's just like a big party, and everyone's happy with the result. So this is mentioned in Bhagavatam by Sri Krishna in so many ways. And many sages, they've taken to this path. But we're going to do Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 58. So we chant the Sanskrit. Why? Sanskrit is the oldest language. It's said to have a unique power to it, a unique connection to Krishna, even to the demigods. It's said to be the heavenly language as well. It's sung, it's poetry as well. It's not it's very musical and mathematical and so wonderful in so many ways. So when we chant the Sanskrit, it has so much benefit. So, repeat after me. Mukunda's going to lead us in a proper prayer before we hear from the Srimad Bhagavatam. I appreciate that. See, you guys are supporting me in I was almost arrogantly about to try and approach the sacred literature without offering my respects and praises to the one who is giving the sacred literature, and that's Sri Krishna. So Mukunda, please.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya means I offer my respectful obeisances unto the all-pervading Lord. That's what Vasudeva means. The Lord within everywhere and everything, within every atom of all of existence. Vasudeva also is a name for Krishna, the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, the work that we're going to hear from. This is the song of Krishna. This is well known all across India as, profound spiritual teaching that all should follow if they want to make the most out of their life. So this is almost the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, right? 1858. The conclusion comes at 65 and 66. So we're only 7 verses away. But this is one of the final conclusions before the final conclusion. But, repeat after me. Machchita sarva durgani. Machchita sarva durgani. Mat prasadat tarishyasi. Mat prasadat tarishyasi. Atachitvam ahankaran. Atachitvam ahankaran. Nashroshyasi vinakshasi. Nashroshyasi vinakshasi. Kishore, would you like to do it?
Machchita sarva durgani.
Machchita sarva durgani. Mat prasadat tarishyasi. Atachitvam ahankaran. Nashroshyasi vinakshasi. Rishi?
Machchitta sarva durgani.
Machchitta sarva durgani.
Prasadat tarishyasi.
Mat prasadat tarishyasi.
Athachetatvam ahankaran.
Atachitvam ahankaran.
Nasroyasyasi vinashyasi.
Nashroshyasi vinakshasi. And one more from anyone.
Machchita sarva durgani.
Machchita sarva durgani.
Mat prasadat tarisini.
Mat prasadat tarishyasi.
Atatsettavam ahankaran.
Atachitvam ahankaran.
Nasaroini vinanshati.
Nashroshyasi vinakshasi. And now one lady.
Machita sarvadurgani
Machchitta sarvadurgani
Matprasadat tarishyasi
Matprasadat tarishyasi
Atha chitvam ahankaram
Atha chitvam ahankaram
Nasrushyasi vinangsyasi
Nashroshisi vinakshisi. Beautiful. Repeat after me. My Chitta, consciousness, Sarva, all, Durgani, impediments, Mat, my, Prasadat, mercy, Tarishyasi, you will overcome, Atha, therefore, Chit, if, Tvam, you, Ahankarat, by false ego, Na, not, Shroshisi, do not hear, Vinakshisi, then lose yourself. The translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, is, repeat after me, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Just a quick shout out to Prabhupada. This is his, the system we're following here in Syracuse, New York, is a system that he brought here to the West. The reason we're reading his commentary on Bhagavad Gita, there's been no commentary on Bhagavad Gita ever in the history that people have read this commentary, and people from all over the world wanted to completely change their life and follow the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita therein, in essence, to become devotees of Krishna. So it's actually, that this Bhagavad Gita is what made me realize I wanted to change my life and, really give it my best effort to offer my life unto God, and I felt this was the best way. But it was through his commentary and explanation of Krishna's teachings that I was so inspired. So there's never been quite a commentary of Bhagavad Gita, so we totally recommend this version of Bhagavad Gita. So that's why we're reading from it. So, a person in full Krishna consciousness is not unduly anxious to execute the duties of his existence. The foolish cannot understand this great freedom from all anxiety. For one who acts in Krishna consciousness, Lord Krishna becomes the most intimate friend. He always looks after his friend's comfort, and he gives himself to his friend, who is so devotedly engaged working 24 hours a day to please the Lord. Therefore, no one should be carried away by the false ego of the bodily concept of life. One should not falsely think himself independent of the laws of material nature, or free to act. He is already under strict material laws. But as soon as he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is liberated, free from the material perplexities. One should note very carefully that one who is not active in Krishna consciousness is losing himself in the material whirlpool, in the ocean of birth and death. No conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. But a person who acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. So let's do a little singing. Bring up the introduction. Bhagavad Gita. So we can chant these all together. These are just some prayers honoring the great teachers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sahitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swamanantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamcha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Samagana Raghunath Vanditam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Samagana Lalita Kanditam cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhani Sute Devi Anamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhudeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. You know this bonus mantra, these ones honor Srila Prabhupada, the great teacher who is my guru's teacher, who brought this system here to the West. It goes like Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Vaishnathya Sheshatarine. So 1858 again. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through the false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So we all know this already. No matter the background you're coming from, I know, some of us in the room grew up with a Christian background, but even, Jesus says, you can do two things. You want to serve one of two masters. You can either serve God or you can serve Mammon, which is like all the worldly wealth and pleasure and prestige, the worldly pleasures. So this is what acting through false ego is, pursuing these worldly pleasures. So if you act through the false ego, Krishna says, not hearing me, you will be lost. And He is within the heart, ready to instruct you. But how often are we going to Him? How often are we stopped by our fickle mind, which right before we might get to the heart, as if we, approach the Lord in meditation and prayer, and then we convince ourselves to do so many other things other than His instructions. So, naturally, this verse is recommending that we become conscious of Krishna. Now, there's so many ways to become conscious of Krishna. What's the easiest way? I'll give you a hint. You guys just did it.
Chanting. Chanting His name.
What's that?
Kirtan.
Kirtan. What is kirtan? Kirtan is glorifying the Lord in the simplest way, and even in the Christian tradition. In Psalms it says one should chant the names of the Lord from sun up to sundown. In our tradition it says Kirtaniya Sadahari, which means we should do it unendingly, always be chanting the names of the Lord. And even Jesus says, Ryan, what's the first two lines of the Lord's Prayer?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
That's what I'm looking for. Hallowed be thy name, and that means?
Holy is your name.
Yeah, holy is your name. So just by calling out the name of the Lord, this is the simplest process. This is the simplest process to connect to Krishna. So that's what we do. The simplest process is just, hey, everyone stop where you are and just call the names of the Lord out, or just hear the names of the Lord, and it'll be a positive experience for you. Now, over time, there may be more expansions of that. You might want to hear of the pastimes of the Lord. You might want to hear the instructions of the Lord, like Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. You may want to meditate on the forms of the Lord. We have many paintings that talk about the form of the Lord and what He looks like. We have the Murti form, in which God has, there's a bona fide form given in the Shastras in which there's a way to properly worship the Lord through His Murti, which may look like an ordinary statue, but actually we invite the Lord to come into this form. And actually He does. If you follow in India this is much more well known and this is an accepted practice, but in the West there's a huge stigma against this. So it's very, in the West, it actually turns a lot of people away. But as I've opened my mind to this possibility, I've actually been able to derive a much deeper connection to God in certain forms of this worship called Archana. But there are many ways to always think of Krishna. There are 9 main processes of bhakti. They start with Shravanam, hearing about the Lord. This is a Shravanam session. This stresses here, not hearing me, not letting the Shravanam enter your life is going to be a huge problem. If you're not regularly hearing about the Lord, what are you hearing about? Ryan, we can do what 2 things? Serve who?
Serve the Lord or serve man.
That's right. So if we're not hearing about how to serve the Lord, what do you think we're hearing about in the world? Yeah, how to serve Mammon. This is a huge problem. It's a huge problem. This is to act through the false ego. So we have to regularly hear about the Lord and His instructions, what He wants from us. Just how wonderful He is, actually. It's just pleasing. If you just hear about the pastimes of the Lord, He just may be doing so many wonderful things, and you'll get so many realizations just from hearing about Him like this. And then the next process is kirtan, which we mentioned is to glorify. And in order to glorify the Lord, you can't just do it to yourself or just to the Lord. You could. But what makes kirtan so special is you let others hear the benefit. So if I'm speaking on Krishna's glories and there's not people gathered to hear it, it's only going to benefit maybe just me, which is fine. I could be benefited. But to benefit everyone, this is, Jesus also in the Christian tradition, He makes analogies of being the light of the world and shining your light unto others. And putting your lamp up on a hill so everyone can see. So actually kirtan is this process. Lord Chaitanya, a similar vision, where the Sankirtan process was to go and that everyone should hear about the Lord. So this is kirtan. And actually when you do this, regular hearing and regular sharing about the glories of the Lord with others, the next stage of bhakti arises. Does anyone know it? Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. Smaranam. Smaranam is actually Krishna's final instruction of Bhagavad Gita, 1865. You want to share it, Rishi? It's kind of here too, if you become conscious of me. And to be conscious There's two main rules in Krishna consciousness. Do you know what they are? All the other rules and regulations facilitate these two. None of my ashram people are allowed to answer. No. Anyone but Mukunda and the ashram crew. Well, do you know the two main rules of Krishna consciousness? The students are allowed to answer. Cici, let's hear it.
I don't know both, but is one of them devote yourself to Krishna? Or
Yeah, yes, that's a very high teaching, but actually it's not part of the two main rules we're talking
okay.
Never
about.
forget Krishna.
Yes.
Always remember.
It's never forget Krishna and always remember Krishna, which is the same rule. To always remember Krishna, or to never forget him, which means you're always remembering him. And how do you do that? It's Krishna's final instruction. Always think of me. Become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you're my very dear friend. What's that? I don't know if that's...
No, that's from Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, I think this is...
Continue remembering him, so he will forget all your mistakes.
Mm.
He will protect you every time.
Yeah.
Continue.
This is very good. He knows the instructions of Krishna. He knows to always remember him. You know, every once in a while, you might get distracted. Alright, I was going to make that joke, but I'm glad you guys made it instead of me this time. But at the same time, it shows he does remember Krishna quite well. So this is our mission. This is ultimately the conclusion of the retreat that you guys have been working so hard since Thursday on. It's just this simple instruction: always remember Krishna. And how do we do it? We just mentioned by regular hearing and by regular chanting, you're going to remember Krishna. But it's got to be regular. You have to develop what's called a sadhana. Now, in Krishna consciousness, our sadhya or goal is to be Krishna conscious. And our two main rules are to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. And what happens when that happens is we develop something with Krishna called prem. What is prem? Love. Ryan, could you tell me the first commandment that Jesus said is of the utmost importance?
Love the God, your Father above all else.
Yeah.
Exact wording.
Yeah, with heart, mind, soul, strength, and words. Yeah, and that's our main goal too. Jesus' main number one commandment was to love God, develop love with God. And that's our number one goal as well. So in order to get a goal, you need a sadhana, and the literal meaning of sadhana is a means to attain one's goal. So if you have a goal in life, you better have a plan of how you're going to get that goal. It's not just going to automatically manifest. It could. But usually if you have a plan on how to get that goal, then you're in good shape. So all the rules of Krishna consciousness that are there, they're actually a plan so that you can get that goal of love of God. And so we start with hearing about God, His instructions, and what He wants from us, and how we're related to Him, and what life with God looks like. Share that with others. This will make us remember it. Then padasevanam, you start learning how to, visualize even the feet of the Lord and how to serve the Lord in different processes. And I won't go into all of them because there's quite an extensive list. But ultimately, this is our process. We want to become servants of the Lord. And actually, this will make us happy. I was talking to our plumber yesterday. He was a terrible plumber, unfortunately. He did a horrible job. He was here all day and did nothing. And he just spent us money on draining liquid, where this was obviously, I could have told everyone that just dumping a bunch of chemicals down the sink wasn't going to solve this problem. But for whatever reason, he wanted to take the easy way out. And but anyway, interesting thing happened. He was in my room much longer than I wanted him to be yesterday. But he saw me chanting on my mala beads, because naturally I was quite behind with all the things we were doing. And he said, "Tell me something. What will your God give you when you're done with all this, at the end?" And I said, "Opportunity to serve him eternally." That was the answer I immediately thought. And I said, what will your same God give you when you're done with what you're doing?" And he said, "My God, they say at the end, he will give me 72 virgins." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "I'm not really interested in virgins."
Die.
Yeah. So I told him I wasn't really interested in virgins, and I gave him an example. And I said, if you know a king, and the king said, "Listen, if you do this, I will give you $10,000. Some people might be like, "Great, I'll take $10,000 from the king. And then I'll go and enjoy that $10,000, no problem." But someone else will say, but the king's also said, "But I'm also offering, one of you can be my personal servant."
I want that.
Yeah, well, that's smart. Why? Because if you're a personal servant with the king, you're living in the king's palace, you're enjoying all the king's opulences and food, and yeah, you have to do some service for him, but you get to enjoy exactly what the king enjoys, and naturally he will please you. So what's really better, the $10,000 prize, or maybe the 72 virgin prize, or maybe some people, it's amazing what people tell me they think heaven is like. They're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be with all my family again," and things like that. Really? That's what you want in heaven? You go back to family life? They tell me all these wonderful things that they're promised in heaven, but you don't hear much of "Oh, I'm gonna actually be able to serve the Lord. I can actually be with the Lord and experience what it's like to know Him and love Him." And so that's Krishna consciousness. That's the main goal, is the prema that we're looking for. We're not interested in a prize of virgins. We're not interested in reconnecting with our family members. Yeah, that stuff might all be there, no problem. But we're interested in actually associating with the Lord, serving the Lord. So that's actually what we're looking for out of this process. And the sadhana that we do, or the activities in Krishna consciousness that you were all practicing throughout the weekend, are the ways in which the great teachers who we firmly believe have achieved this goal, and we've seen evidence and examples of their life and how they've experienced that even in this very body. And they were experiencing ecstatic bliss in this very human body that we all have right now. So we try and follow their process and follow in their footsteps. As we were reading in the Nectar of Instruction, one of the key things that we have to do to grow our bhakti is follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. So there's a verse. You pull up 1:2:17. Rishi, you're right. Don't sleep on the job. We got to train you for when you get to serve the Lord. If you fall asleep at your service, it'll be a problem. It's okay. These kids have been working hard. We had them here till 11 o'clock last night watching movies. And then they got up at 5:30 in the morning and continued on with our devotional practices. So we can let anything slide. I see a couple of them are nodding off. And I'll be honest, while you guys were chanting this morning, I went and slept for half an hour. So I can bear with you guys.
I don't know how you guys can do that. So
yeah, it's
try.
It's discipline and also pushing yourself beyond your healthy limits sometimes. So yeah, I appreciate what you guys are doing. This is a wonderful verse. It goes, Nashta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Or no, that's the next one. It's Shrin Vatam Spakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vidyanta Slohya Badrani Vidhunoti Surhit Satam. So it means Sri Krishna, who's the Paramatma, the super soul, within the heart of each living entity. God within your heart. And He's the benefactor of the truthful devotee. So if you're honest about where you are, if you're honest with your life with Krishna about where you are, He will benefit you. Also another Bhakti Siddhanta gives the translation, He's the benefactor of all holy persons. So those who live by saintly endeavors, by the saintly principles. He cleanses the desire for material enjoyment. Bhakti Siddhanta also gives the translation, cleanses the heart of its wicked desires, of its evil desires. So actually this is the desire for material enjoyment, or what we call mammon, right? Of the serving God or serving mammon. So this is actually this is the thing, that the evil propensity we got to give up. Material enjoyment. Desire for it. From the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages. So just by developing the urge to hear the message of the Lord, He will cleanse you of all your wicked tendencies. And guys, and then by actually doing it every day, remember that Shrin Vatam, Shravanam, is the first process of bhakti. By regular hearing about the Lord, this will come. And then you'll actually know, remember in the first verse, the problem is we act through false ego. Why? We're not hearing Him. We have to hear about the Lord. It's so important. Every day, regularly. It's one of the reasons we called you here to join us every day. It's like, please do this with us every day, because this is actually for your eternal benefit. If we don't regularly hear about the Lord, as Jesus teaches, we're hearing about the opposite. Mammon, or, they give a figure in the Bible of who that guy is. It's like the enemy. And actually, in Krishna consciousness, the only enemy it's mentioned in multiple places, multiple verses, is the uncontrolled mind. You are your own worst enemy. And actually, there's an adage in Christian terms, the blank is the devil's playground. The idle mind is the devil's playground. It's a common saying. So if your mind is uncontrolled and it's idle and doing whatever it wants, actually the Church of Satan, their main rule is, their main thing, like Kanye West used to wear sweatpants, and Jay-Z, I don't know if you guys knew this, that most of the people in music and all these things are actually all Satan worshippers, but sorry. But anyway, they used to wear sweatpants and things that said, do what thou will. Why? Because that's the satanic credo. That's the way of the Satanists. And actually, that is how we become our own worst enemy. Just do whatever you want. We want to hear the Lord. If we just do whatever we want, we'll be lost. So, we brought you here to help recollect the lost souls. And you guys are like the top tier of people that this area has to offer. Why? Because you all have an inclination towards the Lord. You guys, we wouldn't gather and hear about the Lord on a Sunday, which is the day that even in the Christian tradition that we should do this. But a lot of the world is more focused on the da-na-na, 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 da-na-na.
Is that the football thing?
Yeah, the football thing. That's what most of. I even found myself. I was embarrassed that I found myself checking the NFL standings this morning. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And it was on my phone, like still, and like Krishi, you might have all saw it if like Krishi was going through it, and then just like the NFL page was up. I was like, I better exit out of this, but I'm coming clean anyway. Krishna is the benefactor of the truthful devotee. But this is not what we should be focusing on Sunday. So there's another verse we chant every day here who does the group readings with us. And it goes, it's the next verse, Rishi. Nashta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishliki. So it's by regular hearing, back to that hearing again, how important hearing is. By regular hearing of the Bhagavatam, which the Bhagavatam is actually said to be the literary incarnation of Krishna. The most authoritative scripture that's carrying Krishna's instructions. So by regular hearing of the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee. So by rendering service to the Lord's servants, find the best one that you can find and serve that person. And if you need a good person to serve, I know quite a few, Kishore knows quite a few. You can ask us, we know some really, really qualified servants of the Lord that are worth serving in this world, and why we've devoted our lives to serving them. All that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. And that's what we're looking for. Remember that guy asked me what my God was going to give me at the end, and it's this: loving service unto the personality of Godhead. And actually, I don't have to wait till the end to get it. I got it right now.
Jai.
By being able to regularly hear the Lord's instructions. Jai, thank you for your enthusiasm, Sisi. It's a key component of how to make advancement in bhakti, is to be enthusiastic, so thank you. So, again, do this regular hearing. It's so important, especially of the Bhagavatam. This is such a work. And let me tell you, go to the second verse of the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam actually tells you about what the Bhagavatam's values are, right in the second verse. And I think we'll all be quite impressed. So, the English is, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavat Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality, distinguished from illusion, for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. So this is all about finding the highest truth for the benefit of all. And in achieving that truth, all your miseries, all your obstacles, it's going to just be completely erased. And instead, culture of knowledge of the Supreme Lord is established within your heart. You're going to know how to serve the Lord without effect, just by regular hearing of this Bhagavatam. And how wonderful, it completely rejects all religious activities which are materially motivated. Pretty much anything about mammon, no, I'm not interested. Purely on service to the Lord. So,
What are the threefold miseries?
the threefold miseries. So, there's Adhyatmic, Adhibautic, and Adhidaivic. So Adhyatmic is the miseries of your own body and mind. I'm sick, or I'm disturbed, or my mind is, wants this, or it's longing and it's not happy, depressed, all these things. That's Adhyatmic. Adhibautic, actually that's Adhibautic, I'm sorry. So that's Adhibautic, is the body and mind. Adhyatmic is the, Adhyatmic is body and mind. Adhibautic is the other living entities. So, a mosquito comes and bites you, or someone cheats you, or someone hurts you, or something like that, or an animal bites you, or something like this. This is Adibautic. And Adidaivik is like the demigods, meaning like the climate is too hot, or it's too cold, or there's an earthquake, or a monsoon, or maybe a natural pandemic. The last one was probably an Adibautic thing. But I don't need to be that controversial, but I got a few laughs, so it's worth it. Anyway, something like that. So these are the threefold miseries. But actually, you see, an example is COVID was like a horrible time for like so many people. But COVID was like the best time of me and my wife's life, actually. We got married right before COVID, but actually we really found our service in COVID, chiefly because everyone else was too scared to do service during that time. So the temples were closing down, everyone was closing down. I was like, no, like there's like still like a movement that we got to do. Like, and we were trying to invite people over, and people were too scared, and like no one wanted to do. Any of the devotees even near us were like, really like everyone was going quite wild during this COVID time. But like we knew. Also, I had background knowledge of, that there would be plans to do things like this at some point, and not to trust the government when they tell you things. But anyway, so I kind of knew, that like, hey, we're supposed to do something. We have a spiritual calling during this time. And that's when we first started getting people together and having programs, was during COVID. So there are these, and we saw, what was causing most of the world misery was setting up great opportunities for service to the Lord for us, at least for us, But actually, it's like this for everybody. As soon as you take to your devotional service and you become committed to this, no matter what's happening around in the rest of the world, you have an opportunity. You'll always have an opportunity to serve the Lord. And all the miseries that you can fathom, it's because most likely if you're still experiencing them, you haven't given it a shot to fully surrender unto serving to the Lord yet. If you do give it that shot, you're not experiencing the miseries. It's because they're only factored in when you're materially motivated still, or there's a disruption in your service to the Lord. So if you find that, getting your own material motivations out of the way, and getting what's interrupting your bhakti or your service to God out of the way, whatever that is, no more miseries for you. And if they do come, you're actually, like Aaron Zoe's helping me see, there are opportunities for more service. What seems like a misery, like we had our plumbing just decided when we had the retreat that actually it was probably because partially everyone here who does dishes, you have to be very mindful what you put down the drains. So when we had so many people doing dishes and things like that, it's very likely things got down the drains that don't belong. So that's another, but still, that was part of the miseries, but it actually gave more opportunities for all kinds of different services. This caused us to need a lot of help. And, my wife's family sent like a nice picture of everyone hanging out, like they got a Christmas tree and they were all on a sleigh together. They're just like smiling on a sleigh, and I was like, oh, that's nice. And then my wife sent them the video back of what we're doing. And it was a video, I think there was Udit and Adya playing kirtan in my room. And then there was like 7 people washing dishes in my room. Manny's singing into a pot. And like everyone was just singing and washing dishes. And it was like such a bizarre scene. And I was like, but the thing was, everyone was so happy. Everyone was so happy in that video. And
I got a
it
chance
was so...
to ask Sita. I didn't get to be here for it last night, and she let me watch the 2 that she had, and it seriously brought me to tears because it was such a joyous thing to witness from the outside.
So, this is joy in the Lord's service, and this was caused by a supposed misery. Oh, the plumbing has to go now during the retreat. But actually it was a source of more service and the source of the Lord's joy. It was an opportunity for service. Just like whatever next COVID thing, whatever war comes next. So many people are caught up with the war in the Middle East, and just don't worry about it so much. Whatever comes here, something will come eventually. Just see how you can do more service to it. And even with the war now, there will be plenty of opportunities for service. There'll be a lot of people who need help. So just find a way to do your service, and you're not going to be experiencing misery. You're going to actually get like a high on, a high on God. Actually, it's possible. They used to promote this movement first in this country when the hippies were doing the whole peace and love movements in the 60s in this country. And, so the hippies were rejecting everything. And they actually had a good point to reject most of the mammon and the clear nonsense of society that had nothing to do with what was going to make them happy. And they knew, they had a certain level of realization that mainstream society is not going to make them happy. But then they had a really detrimental realization. It's like, well, let's try to just have no rules and regulations, have as much sex and party and as much drugs as we possibly can. And and it was there was a lot of ick in watching them do that. But when Prabhupada came, one of the slogans him and the devotees came up with were just chant Hare Krishna and stay high forever.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Yeah, so you guys are watching in the movie yesterday. And you'll see actually that you get high off of bhakti. And I spent years of my life trying to figure out how to get high and different ways I can get high. So I'm like a connoisseur on how to get high. And that's why I found Krishna consciousness, because this is the way to stay the highest. And there's no come down, there's no punishment for it. Even now, I'm, when I first started this class, you probably saw I was like a zombie a little bit. But I feel myself getting high and enlivened by you guys and the opportunity to do some service. And I'm just amazed by that, how, that's the case right now. But I want to stop here. You guys already get it, right? That unless you are unmotivated and uninterrupted and forming service to God, this isn't going to completely satisfy the soul, which this is what we were meant to do. And here is the place that you can locally come and learn these things and practice these things, and we can all work together to, as a community, spread this among the masses in this area. This is where we have our influence, in this area as of right now, and some of us will move, and then we'll have to form little groups wherever we go. But what are some of your reflections, maybe some of you who are on retreat, or questions, anything you guys might have on the subject matter? Part?
There's a question. In the previous verse of the Bhagavatam, what's the benefactor of truthful devotee? The difference of truthful devotee and the devotee.
So the devotee who is honest, especially honest with themselves, and honest how they're trying to present themselves to others. If I have all kinds of dirty habits behind the scenes, and I want to make you guys think that I'm some holier than thou person, but in my, at the end of the day I'm doing all kinds of, icky things, then this isn't being truthful. But rather if I, am transparent and I let devotees know also what I'm struggling with, and I let also Krishna know what I'm struggling with, this is a truthful devotee. And this is actually what being a holy person is about, to live honestly, to not try and put on a facade. Oh, I'm like this. If I didn't tell you guys that I was in the NFL standings at one point today, I might have felt a little icky actually. So I was inspired to be honest about something that I probably shouldn't have been doing. And there's other things, but that was the most recent I thought I would share. But that's ultimately what being truthful is about, and it is not that you have to be vulnerable with everybody. Like, you have to also trust that that person is your well-wisher. But especially among the devotees, it's good to be truthful. And just being honest is, there's a part in the Bhagavatam where the earth, she says that she can bear so many things of wicked people and sinful things. But there's one thing she just can't stand at all, it's a liar. So, this is the earth's Shravani. Hare Krishna. Better late than never. It's nice to see you. So this is, we want to be true to our word. It's a very important concept in Krishna consciousness. That our words, also if we live by those values, our words become more meaningful. And the Lord starts to empower our words. And that's why a Brahmana who's said to be a fully honest person, supposed to be, not necessarily in Kali Yuga anymore, but a Brahmana who is supposed to be a fully honest person, who never lies, their word is so powerful. That's why it's like the worst thing in the world to offend a Brahmana, because they're like, whatever they say will come true. And if you offend them, they're like, oh, look at this nonsense. You're going to end up just like this. It's like, no, everyone is always so scared to offend a Brahmana. So the Lord empowers those who are honest, and He's their benefactor. And, lying is not, it's definitely an anartha, an unwanted quality of the human being. So we should be as truthful as possible. And if we say, all right, I'm going to do this, even if it's something like, yeah, I'm going to come to the temple tomorrow or whatever it is, you should get up and go to the temple tomorrow, because if you're telling people that, you don't want to not be able to live up to your words. So, something like this. Is that a good? Any other questions or comments? Reflections, you guys just underwent a whole retreat. Hopefully there's something.
I have a question. So we know that in Gita Bhagavad Gita Bhagavan said that Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayasami Masuksham. So when you, at the very moment you surrender to Krishna, He kind of cleanses all your past karmas and everything, so you are kind of free. So what, when you are practicing devotion, you are in devotion and serving Krishna, but still there are some vikars, are there some bad habits or sanskars are there, conditioning us there. So you keep on doing some mistakes also, and you know that you are doing it, but it's because of your conditioning. You keep on doing that. So what about those papas? Again, we have to how to deal with those things. We already past karmas have been done. What about the being Krishna conscious also? If you do mistakes, then how He will take this?
It's a good question. So it's said that even one person who just once chants the name of Krishna without offense, that he has removed more sins than they could ever even commit in the future. But He gives you a certain sphere to work with. He's not going to cleanse all of your mistakes, and it's just that easy for everyone to say Krishna or just to call out to God once, and boom, they're back to Godhead and disappearing from this material world. So also part of the process, He wants you to learn and freely choose to do devotional service. So He will still give you the conditioning to make mistakes, but you also have the opportunity and the knowledge to learn and grow in those mistakes. So that's part of the process. He wants you to be able to do that and recognize, differentiate which is papa which is sin, from that which is righteous. So He wants to give you the choice. And you might make mistakes, but as long as you're recognizing that they're mistakes and that you should move forward from these, you're not a slave to them. Nobody's a slave to their mistakes. You might make a bunch, but you're not a slave to them. You can always do better the next time. That's kind of what Krishna is encouraging you to do. He wants you to escape the material miseries here, but he wants you to learn why you should even escape in the first place. Why you should not live a sinful life. Sin in that word in Greek is an archery term, and it means to miss the mark. Like the Bible was going around in Greek for a long period of time. And the word for sin meant to miss the mark. So he wants you to go back away from sin because you're serving the false ego, you're serving mammon instead of serving him. He wants you to learn why on your own free will that life is better in service to him. Just like I may want to experience exchanges of love with all of you, but if you are not interested at all in having friendship with me, then what can I do? So similarly with the Lord, sinning is missing him in the equation and not being interested in him at all. If you're not interested in him at all, why should he just force you to love him? He's not like a dictator. He's not like take you by the collar and serve me. No, this is not the Lord's mood. He wants to exchange love with you freely and willingly. So your conditioning has to be there so you can still choose. Do you want to actually serve the Lord, or are you just, it's like, oh, my conditioning, I slipped and fell, and next thing I know, I stabbed my friend. Probably not. Probably not. You probably had to meditate on it and think about it. And all your mistakes and things that you're doing, you probably had to contemplate a little bit about, I want to do this. And you had to probably go through guilt, I know I shouldn't do this, but I still think I want to. Right? True or false? Yeah, it's not often that you just slip and fall and I slipped and fell and then we started having sex immediately. And I shouldn't have been with that person. No, there's a whole it's not an accident. It's not an accident. You know what you're doing. So you get to choose. So choose the path towards service to the Lord. That's why he gives you the tendency to still do all these things. But what are you choosing? And we develop sadhanas to help you make the right choices. By regularly chanting the Lord's name, better shot you're going to remember what the Lord wants. By regularly hearing the Lord's instructions, better shot you're going to hear what he wants from you. And you're not just being plagued by, can't believe I did it again, slipped and fell right onto that pornography website or something like that. Yeah, you don't slip and fall into your sins. You usually have to choose to do them. So like that. What do you think? And you're all laughing. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Good?
I think it's just because the examples are a little more extreme. A little more spicy.
It's actually in my astrology reading that I'm going to be benefited greatly by surprising people in my life. So I have to have a surprise element with me. It's just my nature. So... anything else before we do the last kirtan of the retreat in the Damodarastikam? This is the last day of Kartik. And I don't know if you know this, it's the Rasa Purnima. Today is the Rasa Purnima. So this is actually one of the most intimate pastimes of the Bhagavatam happened on this day. It's a very special day. I won't get so into detail of the Rasa Purnima because it's a very deep subject matter. But I really encourage one to read the Bhagavatam on this day, because this jewel at the end of the Bhagavatam is available for everyone, and it happened on this day.
Is there any specific chapter that you would like us to read?
I will not tell you the chapter because it's one should actually read from the first canto all the way up to that point to be able to be ready to accept that part. So unless one does that previous work, actually it's, and unfortunately it's the thing that most people just try and skip to, and you see so many abominations in the name of God from people not having proper understanding of this pastime, which is why I'm not going to go into detail about it. But there is a specific set of chapters, yes, but I'm not at liberty to discuss. But I will recommend if you start with the first verse of the first chapter of the Bhagavatam and work your way through, you'll get to it. So it's that's my recommendation.
Next year.
So
Next year, same time.
yeah, maybe so. Anything else? I saw. Was there a hand up in the back?
I just had a earlier you mentioned about being very careful to keep your word and be careful about what you say and to make good on the things that you say you'll do. And I was just gonna mention that the scriptures do suggest that that we not be so quick to make vows and to claim that we're going to do things for that very reason.
Yeah.
And I know that's actually, as I have tried to learn from that and to be slower to say that I'm going to do things, people often have been annoyed at my wording, thinking that I'm trying to get out of things or I'm not really committing to try to be careful with my words, saying things like, oh, I intend to do that tomorrow. Well, are you going to do it? Yeah, that's my intention. Okay, are you just saying that so that you can not have to do it tomorrow? It's like, no, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And I don't want to back myself into a corner if tomorrow it's flooding or my mother dies or who knows what happens, right?
Sure.
So anyway, it makes a point to tell us that you need to be careful about what you're going to say, what you say you're going to do, and especially about what you vow to do.
Yeah, this is a nice point. But there's also there's both, right? We shouldn't say empty words that just like we have no intention of doing things.
Yeah.
But if you sincerely intend to do something, you give it your best effort to do it.
Yeah.
And that it's recommended in Krishna consciousness to take certain vows. Why? Because this will, not to say that, you should cheaply take them and just like not have any intention to do it, but that it helps to hold you to your standard with God. Like, I vow I'm going to do this for you every day, and that's how serious I am. Hare Krishna. How long time no see. Thanks for joining. It's so important to at one point make a commitment to the Lord that I'm going to do this even every day for you. For the rest of my life, I'm always going to be here doing this for you. And that, and if you can't live up to it, but you try your best, the Lord sees that. He knows what's a sincere effort, and He knows what's an empty effort. Or what you were mentioning, just like trying to get out of responsibilities and commitments and things like that. But, there should be a healthy balance where you should, understand what you're getting into with the Lord and make vows that are really meaningful to you and your relationship with God. And at the same time, we should be as honest with our word as possible and hold ourselves to our word as possible. Mukunda asked me today to make sure the arati plate was set when he got here, and I actually just realized I didn't live up to my word on that. But somehow, luckily, is it set now? So luckily, it is set now. And I better work on that. So that's one example I've got where I could have done better today. But I think it's 1:11. It's the end of our this session. I'm really encouraged by you guys. So honored to have you all for the retreat. Miraj, you were a special gift to the retreat, so I hope we hope we get to see a lot more of you soon enough. And maybe Miraj and I might be touring India together in a few months. We talked about it. He gave me his word that that's what we'd do, so we'll see if it comes to fruition.
You and Kishan might join us.
Yeah, me and Kishan was our first student here at Mantra Central, so we're gonna go visit them and travel India with them in February, hopefully. Krishna willing. Yeah, so thank you guys so much. We're so happy to be with you all, and we really are hopeful that you guys can come be with us as much as you can. We have programs every day. Some of these students, I've seen them every day for the past month, and I don't think I'll see them every day until, I don't know what will have to happen for them to not come anymore every day, but I don't want you to stop coming every day. I want you to keep coming and invite more students. We'll figure it out. So let's do the last Damodarastakam of Kartik. I mean, you could keep this practice in your life if you'd like, but at the centers of Krishna consciousness, we do this only during this month. So this is the last lamp offering. This is the last Damodarastakam. So let's make it a special one. And really, also this is my last day of some of the more austere ways of life that I've been doing the past 5 months. It's the final day of my 5-month trials and tribulations that I've willingly put on myself. And I've been trying to hold myself to the word of doing it, and it has not always been easy. So I'm really excited about this last type of day. So let's make this like a final devotional offering for this Kartik, or this special month, which one gets thousands of times more spiritual benefit. And so let's do Damodarastakam. Ben, can I have you on the mridangam? And Parth, can I have you put this somewhere nice? So Mukunda is going to do an arati as well. Just do not get in his way, but go up and offer the lamps. Madhu and Prerna and the gang, they will help you offer the lamps, and do a couple at a time, at least one or two or three at a time. And then the words are in Sanskrit here, they're on the screen, you can follow along. And yeah, like that. So.
Hare
Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, of course. You guys are welcome every day. We do programs every day, 5:30 to 8 in the morning. A lot of the students here are coming, especially the local SU students. Some people are even coming to live here to experience that. Like we have Manny moving in December 1st, which is exciting. Yeah, so that's a shocking revelation there. So Manny's going to join the party now. And we're doing this every day. We want you guys to join us as much as you can. Wednesdays and Sundays are our two main programs, so you can always come then if you can't make the other times. And yeah, we actually plan to do a lot more and even expand beyond just Syracuse. But we got to start with just Syracuse first. So yeah, whatever contributions and service you'd like to help us with, that's always appreciated but not required. But that's the thing that's going to give you guys the most joy. So find your service in Krishna consciousness is the kind of the point of the retreat, and that's ultimately what's going to give you the most happiness. So any way we can help you with that, let us know. We're really good at finding services for people if you ever want to know something that could be done. But yeah, at the very least right now, go eat a nice prasadam feast. This whole thing is by donation, so any offerings you'd like to leave, you're welcome to, but not required to. And yeah, we're just really ecstatic to have you guys all here with us as part of this beautiful community. We're appreciating this amazing flair of older Western people and young Indian students, and then Ryan as well. They're representing the young Western college guys. We need more of you. And but yeah, we're so happy to have you guys and all the kids that are showing up. It's so beautiful. Nadia's getting bigger every time I see her. Becoming more and more of an adult human being by the day. But yeah, go enjoy a nice feast prepared by the devotees. And thank you guys so much. So many students and so many people are just helping to make this happen. And we're just so grateful for all of you. And I really offer you guys my humble respects and obeisances for your genuine services to us here in the community. So thank you so much. And Hare Krishna. Can I have that laptop, please? Thank you. If anyone, I don't know how many do listen online, you're also appreciated, but